It's like, just calm down, folks. Just calm down.
Man, every time I can never get through the first few seconds without laughing. Every time.
That is your favorite clip, wasn't it, from last year?
Oh, I know, it's the best.
That was in the Vancouver series, I think, right?
Yes, it was, and you were telling everybody to calm down because they were down early in that series.
Yeah. So, hey, it's Barry and Carson, the Best Boys Center Ice podcast, with the 2025 Stanley Cup playoff wrap-up show tonight. A couple of games, one in Toronto, one in Vegas. We'll get to the Oilers Vegas game in a little bit, but first off, as we always do, we want to say that you can get all of our nightly recaps. We do a recap every night after the last game is played, whether it's right now, what is it? It's almost midnight in here in Texas. We will be on the air. We will wrap up the Leafs game against Florida and the Oilers in Vegas. You can get all of the 2025 Best Boys Stanley Cup playoff wrap-up shows on our YouTube channel, Best Boys Center Ice Podcast on YouTube. Also, it'll be available tomorrow on Spreaker. We will repost this show tonight on Facebook again a little later. And there's Stu again. We do this every night. We will do this every night during the playoffs. And we do have, if people didn't watch the game, we have the first team to make it to the conference finals.
Yeah.
But first, we want to talk about everybody's favorite loser.
Okay, you can't. Okay, I know you're an Oiler fan, so you're obviously excited to talk about that, but I don't know. You can't tell me that it's not going to be exciting to talk about this for the next 10, 15 minutes about this game.
Leafs game?
Yeah.
Like, I was at work when this game was on, but I had it on my other screen, and I kept watching. It seemed like every time I looked over, Florida scored. Every time I looked over, Florida scored. And the Leafs, and I said this just before we went on, Leafs look like a junior hockey team out there tonight against Florida, and it shows. They lose 6-1, and they only got the one goal with a minute left in the third period. It was, where are the big guys? I know you're going to have a lot to say about.
Oh, am I ever going to?
I think I saw stats that Austin Matthews has got no goals in 10 games in the playoffs.
The second round, yeah,
against Florida. No goals. He's got. Where's he gone? That's the captain. They made him the captain this year. Where's the captain? Where's everybody else? And
it's go ahead. Sorry.
They just went. First period. Okay, they down 1-0. Aaron Ekblad scores, and again Carson will get into the shot charts here. And then second period, Florida went to town with 3 goals. And 6 minutes in, 10 minutes in, 14 minutes in. And then in the third period, again, being up 4-0 already. Well, if you're, in my opinion, nowadays, if you're going into a game, into the third period, down 4-0, especially when you haven't done anything offensively, the game, I said to you on text, the game's pretty much over. And it was after about 6.5 minutes in when A.J. Greer got his goal. Sam Bennett got a power play, and like I said, the only goal Toronto got was kind of like whatever with a little over a minute left. Toronto loses 6-1, and that's in that I always almost call it Maple Leaf Gardens, but that's in.
We'll say Maple Leaf Gardens.
Yeah, it's in Toronto, and it was funny. You look at they span the crowd, and the crowd are just sitting there like in disbelief, saying, "Did we just see our team just totally fold
again?
Are we doing this again?" And like you've got the shot chart in front of you, but it was I have to say, one of the worst playoff games I've seen in by one team.
Yeah. And I mean, they were shot. The even shot board, it was 32 piece. So Yeah, I agree. I mean, you're right.
It was a terrible. It's like, people want to say, oh, you know what? Well, the Leafs looked good in the first round. They got through the first round. Maybe it's their year. All right. Well, they won the first two games in this series. All right. Well, maybe we're going to see it. We even said it. Maybe we're going to see a different Leafs game. Last three games has been the same old Toronto Maple Leafs. Great team during the regular season. Can't get over the hump in the playoffs. And I heard during one of the intermissions of the Oilers Vegas game, the guys from ESPN down here were saying Toronto loses this series. They got to like clean house
Mhm.
somewhere
Oh
because
yeah.
things not working.
Yep, I agree.
So why don't you go into and kind
Oh
of go
man,
a bit more deeper?
this is gonna be similar to your uh your talk about the game three
Oh,
Edmonton
my game
loss
three
here.
rant. Okay.
Okay, so out of any team in the National Hockey League, including obviously a Penguins fan, I will never enjoy seeing a team lose more than the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Mm-hmm.
Because every year the Toronto Maple Leafs, this is their year to win the Stanley Cup. This is their year to win the Stanley Cup. This is their year to win the Stanley Cup. And they do the same thing every year where they get to the playoffs and they fold like a cheap suit every time.
Yep.
This is the second time they've advanced to the second round since basically I was born. Pretty much, maybe a couple years after. I think it's like second time since 2004 or 02, one of the two. I can't remember. And they just, 2023, they made it. They finally eclipsed the first round, beat Tampa Bay, and they were celebrating like it was a Stanley Cup. The fans, the team, everybody, and then they got brushed over in 5 games
Yep.
against the Panthers. It was over. This series, you're right. It started differently. Like, oh wow, they're up 2-0, and they had the opportunity to go 3-0, and then they lose no T and lose again in Game 4. And tonight's tonight, but they they just they're proven losers. The Toronto
Mm-hmm.
Maple Leafs. That's what they are. They haven't proven anything. They haven't won a Stanley Cup in 56 years or no 58 years
Mm-hmm.
now. They haven't won a Stanley Cup, longest active cup drought in the NHL. Um, this is it. Like I'm tired of hearing about the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm tired of hearing about them. I don't care what they do in the regular season. They get to the playoffs and they do the same thing every year. No one on that team has any accountability for when it goes awry. They all just say, "Well, like Captain Matty after the game said, well, we didn't give him much to cheer about tonight." Well, you should have changed something about that.
Yep.
You should have played better. You should have actually done something productive with yourself instead of taking all that money from the team and you get to the playoffs and you do nothing. I don't want to hear anybody defend Austin Matthews anymore. Great goal scorer for sure, but doesn't matter when he doesn't score in the playoffs and he doesn't play in the playoffs. If he's hurt, I don't care. There's probably over dozens of people that are in the playoffs right now playing hurt, and they're playing better.
Yep.
How many defensemen in this game have more goals in this series than him?
Yeah.
I mean, Kulikov, defenseman. Mikula, defenseman. Ekblad, defenseman. Even Jesper Boqvist, first game of the playoffs, he's already got a goal.
Yep.
And he does nothing. Uh, the Leafs played awful. And there was an awful play made by Mitch Marner in the second period that led to the third goal. It was a no-look spinorama pass from blue line to blue line, and it got intercepted. That led to the Boquist goal on a nice little 3-on-2 rush play. But yeah, I don't want to hear about the Leafs anymore. I'm tired of it. I really am. I think they're just the most overrated team. Honestly, the most overrated team in sports, to
Yep.
be honest with you. They really are. I mean, they have all this star power and they do nothing with it. They don't win any championships.
Like
I'm tired of it.
you compared them the other night to the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas
Yeah,
looked just great in
there's
the
every
regular
year the
season,
Dallas
and then they fall
Cowboys.
apart. They can't win in the
They're supposed
playoffs.
to win the Super Bowl
They
every year.
can't
The
get
Dallas
out of the
Cowboys
first
are gonna.
round.
Yep,
Can't
the
get
Dallas
out.
Cowboys
They're
are
the
going to win the
same.
Super Bowl every year, and they don't. And the same thing with the Leafs. The last 7, 8, 9 years, it's probably been shoved down everybody's throats that the Leafs are supposed to win the Stanley Cup, and they just don't do anything, and they get eliminated the same way every year. I agree. I think this is it for the core four. That's it. You blow it up because something's not going well in that team. They bring in all these guys every year, and it doesn't work. And I've said the same thing every year. The Leafs are a soft team. They have nobody on that team that has any grit to them, and that's why they get beat by teams like Florida because they don't have that edge to them. And people complain, "Oh, Bennett plays dirty. Ekblad plays dirty. Maybe a little bit over the line, but they're at least going to the line.
Yeah.
These guys in the Leafs aren't. And, the Panthers are without one of their best depth forwards in Rodriguez today. and they still Boquist does in and plays a great game and
Yeah.
makes a case for why he should be still playing after this game. And the whole lineup, I texted you during the game. The Leafs, or not the Leafs, the Panthers were all over the Leafs anytime they had the puck. They were following them, but they were playing so smart that they were able to play on their toes, but not be too aggressive where they weren't giving much of anything up.
Yeah.
Whoop-de-doo, the Leafs got a goal. Who cares? The game is pretty much over. Who
Yeah.
cares?
The Leafs have no heart. They have no heart. They have no willingness. If it doesn't come easy to them, they don't want to work hard to get it. They don't want to play like Vegas played tonight, fighting for their lives. Although Vegas could have played a little bit better, but the last couple of games, Vegas has been playing,
But
fighting for their life. That's a difference between a team that's got heart and a
but
team that just doesn't have it.
yeah, but I'm you know what? I mean, they're going to go to Florida. No confidence in that team because they've already been in this situation so many
Mhm.
times. Florida's going to take it to them, and they've proven why. I mean, Bob's got the hot hand right now. The Panthers' whole lineup is playing really good from top to bottom.
Mhm.
The Panthers, I believe, it's this postseason. Is it 17 different players on that team have found the back of the net, which is
Found,
crazy.
yeah.
That's a lot of. I mean, that's nearly a whole lineup already that's found the back of
Mhm.
the net. Um, I don't care that it's 3-2. This series is done. It's over.
Yeah.
Because even if somehow the Leafs pull it out in game six, the Leafs always go home in game seven and they lose. They're game seven losers. They don't win game sevens. It's over. This series is done. It's just a matter of how badly they're going to get beat either next game or in game seven. The Panthers have all the momentum. Leafs had their chances. They blew them. They come back tonight, have the advantage to win the biggest game of the season, biggest game of their franchise in a long time, and they play a
And
big
they're
fat goose egg,
and
and
they're playing at home, and they were
yeah,
playing at
they
home.
played at home and they played an awful game and made so many mistakes. And I mean, for the feels like dozenth time, those fans go in there and pay all that money, and the Leafs just lay an egg in an important game. And I don't want to hear about the Leafs anymore. I'm tired of hearing
No,
about the Leafs anymore. I'm done. I'm
if
done
you're
with them.
if you're hardcore, and I know there's a lot of hardcore Leafs fans that have been Leafs fans since the dawn of time. So that either they grew up, their parents were Leafs fans, their grandparents were Leafs fans. They probably had great grandparents who saw the last Stanley Cup and seen really they did have really good teams in the '70s and in the '80s. Just
And they still do, but they don't have any heart in those teams.
they
You're
don't
right.
have any
They don't.
heart, and it's like, and you can tell by looking at the fans, they just think this is such a heartless team. They don't
They
want to fight. They
they
don't.
made
Where's
such a
their
mis
fight?
they made such a mistake this offseason, taking the captaincy from Tavares. I
Yeah.
mean, that's the guy on that team that for the most part in the series has played with some.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean this offseason is going to be a big one for the Leafs. Should they get eliminated this next game, it's their Marner's probably going to go. Uh, I think you really try to just break it up. That's it. It's done because they're not going to make it anywhere. They're not gritty enough. They're not tough enough to make it past this point.
Yeah,
They're going to get eaten alive by a team like Florida, even a team like Carolina. They're going to get eaten alive by teams like that
because
because they don't have anybody on that team that is willing to go to the wall to win.
there's sometimes when you get into the playoffs that you have to adjust a lot more than you do in the regular season, and the Leafs did not adjust, have not adjusted,
And
and
they didn't give Wall much of any
no,
help. I mean,
no.
he he's okay. I understand he's an NHL goaltender, but he's their backup goalie.
Mhm.
Stolar's got hurt, and unfortunately that happened. But they didn't help Wall out really. I mean, they left him out to dry, and they just make so many. They made so many errors. I'm done with the Leafs. I really just don't
Mhm.
want to. I just don't like hearing about him. It makes me happy to see him lose because they're just supposed to be God's gift to Earth, and they prove why they're not a legitimate contender.
You can if they nobody should talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs as being a Stanley Cup contender anymore because we've seen it so many times. It's the same thing over and over and over again.
And they do the same thing every offseason. They try to load up their team. They try to bring new guys in, and it doesn't work out. They even got a new coach, Craig
Mhm.
Berube, who is a great coach,
He's a
Stanley Cup
great coach,
champion. But it's just that team, like the voice in there. The leadership is not there at all, and there's no grit to that
yeah.
team. People can argue that till they're blue in the face, and it's true. The Leafs have no grit because if they did, they may have lost this game, but not like that, and not at home.
No.
Not like that. You don't lose by 5 goals in a must-win game, biggest game of the season, biggest game of your team probably in the last, 5-10 years, and you blew it big time. And I knew this was going to happen. Today I was coming into today. I'm like, the Leafs are just going to leaf this game up, and they're going to blow it big time. And I told you that
Yeah.
they were going to do that, and they did. They did it. They proved everybody right tonight.
And I even I threw them a bone when we
Yeah.
texted, said, hey, who do you think tonight? And I said, I'm going to go with Toronto. At home, they should be able to maybe muster one. And then
What did I say?
You said, no way. You said, absolutely not. They're going to leaf it up. And it's right. They leafed it up again.
The Florida Panthers are the Stanley Cup champions, reigning Stanley Cup champions for a reason. And they played such a good game. I know that it was somewhat boring because they were already up so many goals, but they were just so responsible the whole time. Like, they took the lead and they were able to play with enough pep in their step to continue to score. But again, Toronto couldn't generate anything because the Panthers were all over them, clearing the puck out any opportunity they could, and they had a lot of zone time. And this series is over. It's done. It's done, and I'm done with Captain Matty. I'm done. I like Nylander. I like Mitch Marner. I like Morgan Riley. I don't mind Austin Matthews, but he's not a leader, and he is overrated as hell.
And this Panthers go home. They could wrap things up on Friday night.
And I don't see how they don't. Bob is on his game.
Bob is being Bob again. And it's like
he made some pretty tough saves.
He made some really tough saves tonight. He, when it was a little closer earlier, he made some pretty good. Bob is being Bob again. And
this is it. Their last
closeout game for the Panthers in South Florida, and that'll be the only game on Friday will be that game between the Maple Leafs and the Panthers. And the Panthers looking to move to yet their third
straight Eastern Conference
final. Now we go to the late game tonight, and it was another closeout game for the Edmonton Oilers, and they were in Vegas against the Golden Knights. I think the Oilers they were 8, I think something like 8-2 in closeout games, something like that. And they went into this game knowing, after shutting out Vegas in Edmonton in Game 4, that this was going to be a tough game, and Vegas were going to come out, and they weren't going to just give up. Now, a lot of the commentators on ESPN, which we watch down here, were saying, well, Vegas just doesn't seem like they're pushing hard enough. There's no immediacy. There's no, hey, we're down 3-1. But I felt Vegas at points in this game, and I don't know if there's a chart that says ozone time between the two teams, but it seemed like Vegas were, especially towards the last 30 minutes of the game, had more of the ozone time than the Oilers did. It was just a matter, again, of the Edmonton defense not really giving Vegas anything. Eichel didn't get his first shot at the game until late. And the big guys, their big guys, didn't score a goal in the Big Five, didn't score a goal in this series. Eichel had 5 assists or something like that, but their Big Five didn't score. If your big guys aren't scoring, and you look at, McDavid and Draisaitl haven't scored much the last couple of games, but they haven't had to because they've got everybody else coming in and scoring. So what do we get? We get Stu Skinner coming off a shutout, Aiden Hill coming off a game where he wasn't focused, and you said, when we were texting earlier, Aiden Hill's going to be more focused, and he was more focused.
He played really well.
Oh, he was the Aiden Hill of the.
I would give him the second star of this game, honestly.
And so what happens? We go into, it was 0-0 through, it was 0-0.
First NHL playoff game since 2021 that's happened where it's gone all the way through regulation 0-0.
So going into the overtime, Vegas hadn't scored a goal since that goal in Edmonton with .4 left in the game. So that's 2 full hockey games that they never scored a goal. And this is a team who won the Pacific, best third period team in the regular season, and they just I don't know what it is. They played a good game, but they didn't.
They didn't look
They
like, I don't know. They
they
just didn't
didn't
look the same.
they didn't look Vegas like.
Mm-mm.
They didn't look like a team that was hungry, and played with that panic. Like, we're down 3-1. Did they not realize they were down 3-1?
I
And
think they were probably just trying to calmly go into the game and try to take it that way. And I don't know.
And the Oilers played a very patient game. They were talking about it on the panel. Very patient, very mature game. They just didn't force things. They just let things happen. And as it turned out, in overtime, who scores? A guy who gets put into the lineup a couple of games ago, Kasperi Kapanen, gets a typical overtime goal, a scramble around the net. Aiden Hill made a couple of saves, sprawling, trying to make another
Trying
save.
to get back, and he couldn't.
But his defenders just didn't take anybody out, and Kapanen pops the puck in from the side of the net, and the Oilers win the series 4-1 with a 1-0 shutout. It's like that was the problem with it. Wasn't Aiden Hill. Aiden Hill stood on his head the whole series. It was his defense, which is weird because Vegas has a great defense, but their defense just didn't get Edmonton away from the net, and it shows in the last few games.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that they just tried to. I think they tried to kind of slow the pace down to see if Edmonton would slow it down with them, and it didn't really work that way. Edmonton outplayed him for the most part, and Aiden Hill had a great game today. And I mean, he's the only reason it. I mean, him and Stu are the only reasons it went to overtime, obviously. But disappointing end to their season. They're out. Mark Stone didn't play today, but I didn't expect this series to be over in 5. But it worked out to be that way. But again, like, great win for Oilers. Obviously, they go to a conference final again for the second straight year. And now they get awarded with an even tougher task, which most likely looks like it'll be Dallas, but you never know, obviously, in the sport. But that's going to be a really, 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 really tough series, honestly, either way, because we've seen, obviously, the Oilers, how greedy of a team they've become in the playoffs. But Dallas, like, they're a loaded team. A loaded team. And they've got a hot goalie who's playing on his game and looks like he's poised. He said it today. His goal is to win the Stanley Cup.
Yep.
Nothing else. And that's what you want to hear. And he had no hesitation. He looked like, honestly, stone-faced, like, I'm winning the Stanley Cup. Yep. I don't care what it takes.
So I'm with you. Like, anything could happen tomorrow night in game 5 in Winnipeg. But the way the Stars are playing, and the way
they're just playing too good.
They're just playing too good, and like I just don't see what. Maybe Winnipeg wins tomorrow.
I don't know. I don't know.
But it just all goes by what Hellebuyck does.
But look at this. Look at this from tonight's game, the Oilers game. So they have 32 shots. Obviously, the one Kapanen's OT goal right here. But plenty of net front chances, and probably 2 or 3 of these are that same play, honestly. As Dad has a smoke break real quick from his Marlboros. But look at how many shots they get from perimeter, point, face-off circle. You go to Vegas, not much really in front, which is weird, but not much in front. A lot of shots from inside the dots, some from the points, but Stu was on his game, and he, depending what that looks like between him and Pick, if Pavlong's Pick's out, he's got to continue to play this way. Really, really back-to-back great performances for him. I'm still, just by his reputation, obviously not convinced fully about him. I mean, he's still, we know what he's capable of when he's off his game. And, it's going to be interesting to see who they go with in this series. I would go back to Pick if he's healthy, just because of how good he's played so far.
Because he's 6-0 in the playoffs.
But honestly, I don't see any game that Dallas or Edmonton, if they play each other, shut each other out. I think those two teams are too offensively loaded. I mean, Mikko Rantanen could, for all we know, have 50 points this playoffs
Yeah,
if he
right.
keeps playing the way he is. I mean, it's crazy, but gonna be interesting to watch that one tomorrow. But yeah, Oilers 1-0 OT win. I didn't see this game going like that. I thought it was gonna be a lot more scoring, but it's a great playoff hockey win. That's the playoffs. The deeper you go into them, is a gritty win. But same message as I said after the games. Oilers at this point, they're happy, but they're looking ahead now.
Yeah.
They're going to take advantage of the few
'Cause,
days rest that they have, and probably really pay attention to tomorrow's game and see the strategies of both teams, how they can prepare.
see, now they can really focus on that rest of that series, and they know that they're going to start on the road, whether it's in Dallas or whether it's in Winnipeg. They're going to be on the road again to start, like they've been on the road every series so far. And I think even if they do go to the Stanley Cup final, I think they would be on the road. They wouldn't have the home ice in that one.
I could see that West final if it's Dallas Edmonton 7 games. I mean,
That
Dallas wants to go to the Cup final,
and
and they have a
Dallas,
good enough team to do
you
it.
know, they had the Oilers last year 2-1 in the Western Conference Final, and then lost three in a row. And Dallas has something to prove. And I'm always scared of Dallas because they have such great firepower, and if you don't defend them properly,
It's done.
you're done. And if you get behind this team, it's hard to come back from them. But
Yep.
like you said, the Oilers have some time off now until that next series would go. They're going to definitely be interested in the game tomorrow night. There's two games tomorrow night. The Carolina Hurricanes can wrap up their series in Washington against the Capitals, uh, leading 3-1.
I think I'm going Carolina's takes. I mean, I picked Washington winning the series, and I still, in my mind, will stand by that. But I think they've just taken over Washington and figured out how to slow them down, and I think it's going to be really, really tough for the Capitals to win this game. I mean, they can do it. Don't get me wrong, but I think Carolina's figured them out. To be honest, at this point.
I'm so on the. I thought about this a little bit here when I was putting up my stuff, and I saw the game, and I went, man, Washington at home. If they don't pull the Leafs, they could take it. But I just think Carolina's too strong, and I'm going to go with Carolina in this one too, and just wrap it up. And just Washington, even though they had the best record in the East, a fantastic year, the Ovechkin record, goal scoring record was very exciting to watch. But I want to say Washington can win at home, but Carolina's just too tough right now, and I
Well,
don't see that happening.
Well, and I said it, Washington had a great season. There's nothing to be disappointed about if they get eliminated. I mean, they weren't expected to be at this point. They weren't supposed to win the division, win the conference, and they did. And Ovechkin, to top it all off, got the goal record.
Mhm.
Great season for them, and they got a lot of assets this offseason that worked well for them, and they'll continue to be a good team for a while. But you never know. This game is crazy. Washington could, for all we know, win tomorrow like 7-0, and it would be like, whoa. But you never know. But
Yeah.
I think we both are on consensus. Carolina's just figured Washington out, and it's going to be hard for the
Mhm.
Capitals to win.
So that game will start at 6 o'clock Central Time, followed by the Dallas Stars in Winnipeg against the Jets. That'll be an 8:30 game. Now, okay, we'll go back. We've talked a little bit about the Stars and the Jets. Winnipeg at home. Okay, they're at home. They're the President's Trophy winner, best record in the NHL, but they just are just missing something. And it's again, like I said a couple of minutes ago, which kind of Hellebuck are you going to get? Are you going to get the Hellebuck who's got pulled 3 times, or are you going to get the guy who's supposed to win the Vezina and the Hart Trophy?
I mean, look at this. Look at this. So this playoffs, he's played. Let's see. They beat. So he's played 11 games, and he's allowed 4, 10, 15. Let me count this up real quick.
Okay. He's been ranked like the 8th of the 8 teams left, or now that were left. He was ranked 8th as far as goaltending is concerned.
In 11 games, he's allowed 37 goals.
11. So that's almost like 2 goals a game, at least.
No, that's more. It's like 3.5.
Yeah, 3.5, 3.5.
That's a lot. I mean, and he had. I mean, considering here he had a shutout, and a 1 goal allowed
Mhm.
game in game 2 against the Jets. But look at. I mean, he's 6-5-5, like 3-3. Just he's not. He's just not. He's not playing like the Vezina caliber we know he can be, and he's not playing that way.
No.
And it wouldn't be as big of a deal if this wasn't a reputation, but it is. He's been playing that. He played that way last year against the Avs, and it proved deadly. They got crushed because of that.
So you look at Dallas coming off their big win. They want to close it out. They want to get just as much rest as the Oilers are going to get if they want to move to the Western Conference.
Look at this guy.
Look at that, Jake, our boy Otter. Otter is like I've compared him in the past to playoff money goaltenders who come through when Martin Brodeur, Patrick Roy.
Oh, you could just count on those guys to just
For
play elite.
Grant Fuhrer, even going back into the 70s, Ken Dryden from the Montreal Canadiens. You never had to worry about these guys in the net. Billy Smith, even with the New York Islanders. Otter is one of those guys where you can look at him. Okay, he may have a shaky game. He may have a shaky period. May give up a couple of shaky goals, but
he bounces right back to it.
It doesn't. You could look at him and going, well, okay, it doesn't seem to bother him, and he just comes back, makes these spectacular saves, keeps the team in it. Like goaltenders are going to give up goals. There's not going to be a 0-0 shutout like we had tonight. Goaltenders are going to give up goals. It all depends on how you react to the goals that you give up. If you give up bad goals, how do you react? If you give up 2 bad goals, how do you react from that point on? If you give up good goals, it's how you react. Goals are going to happen. It's just
that's the nature of the game. That's
fast.
literally the point of the game.
Players are so much better now. You're not going to, and Otter is one of those guys who you can sit there on the Dallas bench and you can just look over at your net and go, Otter, okay, let's go. We just got to get a couple of more goals, get our stuff together because we know he's going to give us enough time to get our stuff back together. And that's just the way we've seen him the last 3 or 4 years that we've been going to Dallas. And he
makes some unbelievable saves.
And I've said it 100 times. My team of the Edmonton Oilers, my favorite goaltender is Jake Ottinger because I just love the way he plays the game. Calm, cool, collected, and just like Mr. Reliable.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so that game will be the late game, the 8:30 game, and we'll be on the air within a half hour of that game ending. So probably about, maybe if it goes into overtime. If not, then probably about 11, I'd say 11:30.
Yeah.
We'll be kind of on the air tomorrow to wrap up tomorrow's games between Carolina and Washington. Dallas and Winnipeg, both games are closeout games for the Stars and the Hurricanes. We'll have a complete wrap up of that, plus a look ahead to we'll preview the one game on Friday night, the Leafs and Florida. As you can see, I'm going to say it because I can. The Edmonton Oilers, first team in the conference finals, and I'm, as a forever Edmonton Oilers fan, I'm just saying I'm ecstatic. I'm happy. I'm excited to see this team, and it's going to get tougher. It just gets tougher and tougher and tougher every round you get, and it's just nice to see them playing at that level and having, in my opinion, probably the best all-around up and down the lineup team they've had in a long, long, long time. So that's, again, Carolina leads this series with Washington 3-1. Florida leads Toronto 3-2.
After that crapshoot from the Leafs.
Yeah, that was like, that wasn't even, that was just ugly. That was just like throw up is what it was.
Yeah, like.
And it was just Dallas leads their series against Winnipeg 3-1, and the Oilers beat the Vegas Golden Knights and move on to the Western Conference Finals with a 4-1 series lead. So again, all of our 2025 Stanley Cup playoff wrap-up shows are on our YouTube channel. You can go check it out, Best Boys YouTube and it'll be on the Refocused Radio Network tomorrow, and also on Spreaker tomorrow. I'm not going to do it tonight. I'll do a series wrap up of the Oilers Vegas tomorrow on TikTok, and then we'll be back, like I said, right after the Stars Jets game. We could have a couple more teams making the conference finals, or we could have a couple of game sixes coming up on Saturday night. Well, it's just a great thing about the playoffs. You just never know what's going to happen, but we'll be there for you. And again, another great night of games tonight. Carson, thanks for doing all the great work that you do with the graphics. I hope you guys enjoy it. Let us know what you think. And in the meantime, and in between time, everybody have a great hockey night.
Stu.
See
ya.
All right. Bye.